Hello children, let's start our maths class. Today we are going to start with a new topic, that is Unit 2 complex numbers. Before we go to Unit 2 complex numbers, let us have a small recap of what we have done in our Unit 1. So I just want to go from the last. So I want you to take your books with you. So take your maths textbook with you. I hope you have completed all the multiple choice questions. Yes, children? So you have to be thorough with your exercise 1.8. So we have 25 one words. So just prepare the multiple choice questions properly. Okay, children? Okay. So now come to exercise 1.7. So just we will go from the back to the first, because you would be having the idea from the last. Yes, children? So just take exercise 1.7. Okay, what have we done in exercise 1.7? We have dealt with the homogeneous equations. Now what do you mean by homogeneous equation? The B part, that is the B matrix, is a zero matrix. That is, you have the numbers 0 on the constant parts. Okay, and also we have seen two cases for homogeneous equations. Do you remember the two cases, children? Yes, one is rank A is equal to rank AO is equal to N. If you have such a case, you say the system is consistent and it has a unique solution. What about solution? It has a unique solution and also a trivial solution. Now what do you mean by trivial solution? Determinant of A is not equal to 0. So this was for homogeneous equation, the first case. Now let's go for the second case, children. Second case is rank of A is equal to rank of AO is less than N. If you have such a condition, you have to say the system has non-trivial solution. I hope you are clear with these two cases that we are going to follow for homogeneous linear equations. Okay, so that was from exercise 1.7. Now let's come to exercise 1.6. Let us recall what were the things that we have done in exercise 1.6. So this was exercise 1.7. Yes, children? So two cases to be noted over there. Now exercise 1.6 we have studied, or we have done the consistency part. That is, we have checked for the consistency and accordingly we have found the rank of the equations. So under consistency we had three rules. Consistency, I'll just put consistency. Okay. And the rule was based on Rauchy-Capelli theorem. Okay. What was the first rule, children? Tell me the first rule that we used under consistency. Yes. If rank of A is equal to rank of AB, just have told you for homogeneous we use here O instead of B. If you use here B, it's not the wrong, we can use B here. But since here B is a zero matrix, we put here 0. That's O is 0. Okay, so rank of A is equal to rank of AB is equal to N. If you have such a rule, we say the system is consistent and it has a unique solution. What about the system? It is consistent and it has a unique solution. Okay, done. Now let's go for the second rule. If rank of A is equal to rank of AB is less than N. Okay, if the rank of A and rank of AB is less than N, you have to say the system is consistent and it has infinitely many solutions. Okay, done. The third one, what was the third rule, children? If rank of A is not equal to rank of AB, we say the system has no solution and it is inconsistent also, no solution. I hope you were clear with this consistency part. So with this, these were the rules that we followed in exercise 1.6. Clear, children? Okay, so now let's move to exercise 1.5. Yes, what we have done there? We have used a Gaussian elimination method. In exercise 1.5, we used a method, Gaussian elimination method. Okay. So what were the rules done over here, or what we have done here? It was transforming the augmented matrix to the echelon form. So 3 equations or 2 equations would be given to you, mostly here 3. So 3 by 3 matrix is given over here. So equations would be given to you. So you have to change the augmented matrix into echelon form. And you have to use a back substitution method, and you have to get the value for the unknown variables, that is x, y or z. So here, transforming augmented matrix into echelon form, and you have to use back substitution method and find the unknown values, that is x, y, z. So fine. Okay, children? So this was from exercise 1.5. Okay, so I hope you know all these things. Okay, so 1.5, 1.6, 1.6 mostly we have to just follow the same rule, that is we are going to convert everything in row echelon form. Okay. Now coming to 1.4, I'll just rub this part. So what does 1.4 dealing with? So in 1.4 you have a Cramer's method. Now for Cramer's rule, we have a formula, like you have to use a formula for delta, then you have to find out delta 1, delta 2 and delta 3 and so on. How you find delta? The delta is found by determinant of A. So you have to find determinant of A, and then accordingly delta 1 means the x value will be replaced. Then delta 2 means the y value will be replaced, and for delta 3 the, what's that? The z value will be replaced. Okay, children, so this is the rules that you have to follow. So in exercise 1.4 we have studied Cramer's rule and how to find delta 1. So delta 1 is found, or we can say, first of all you have to find delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, and after that you have to find out the value for x1, x2 and x3. So x1 is delta 1 upon delta, x2 is delta 2 upon delta, and x3 is delta 3 upon delta. So if you just refer your sums, you will get an idea of what we have done in Cramer's rule. So in the Cramer's rule, so we have found the delta, we have found delta 1, delta 2, delta 3. In Cramer's rule, the position is very important. How to place the numbers, how to place the elements. That's a very important part over here. So once you are clear with the position of elements, the sum goes very easy. So just remember the formulas. And in exercise 1.3, we studied the matrix inversion method. That was a very simple exercise. 1.3 deals with matrix inversion method. And what was the formula we used here? X is equal to A inverse B. So this was the formula we have used. You know how to find A inverse? We have 2 ways to find A inverse. Yes, children? So just use the formula for finding A inverse. If it's a 2 by 2 matrix, I have told you what is the formula to find the answer. Yes, children? So A inverse is 1 upon AD minus BC. A and D gets interchanged, and just change the sign. So that is the formula for, that is we can use this formula when you have a 2 by 2 matrix. If you have a 3 by 3 matrix, what is the formula for A inverse? The A inverse is 1 upon mod A into adjoin A. Yes, children? Yes, just, yes. 1 A inverse is 1 upon determinant of A adjoin A. So these are the formulas that we have studied in matrix inversion method. What is the formula for finding the x value? It is A inverse B. And if you have a 2 by 2 matrix, you can use the formula 1 upon AD minus BC, D minus B minus CA. That is, you have to interchange A and D and you have to just change the sign. So remember, whenever you follow for A inverse, that is whenever you have a sum based on inverse, first of all check determinant A. And it should not be equal to 0. If the determinant is not equal to 0, we say that EA inverse exists. So these are the some points that you have to remember. Okay. So what is the formula for finding A inverse for 3 by 3 matrix? 1 upon determinant A adjoin A. Okay. Now what was in 1.2? In 1.2 we have studied how to find the ranks. Yes, children? It was finding rank. We use two methods. One is minor method. You know how to choose the minor method, yes? So rank of A is less than or equal to minimum of that order. That is, we would have written, yes, 2 cross 2, 3 cross 2. So you have to find out that. So accordingly, you have to find the rank. So one is by minor method and one is by row echelon form. Okay, so just remember this thing. I'm just refreshing your mind so that whatever you have studied, it comes to your mind. So when you just come to exercise 1.2, just refer your classworks also. You can just see the sums, different sums that we have used there. Okay, so we have studied two ways of finding rank. One is by minor method and one is by row echelon form. Okay, now the second question was finding the inverse. And here we are not going to find the inverse by the formula method. We have to use a new method. What was that? By Gauss-Jordan method. So we have a total different way. So how you start for this? It will be a matrix will be given to you and you will be writing here I. But at the last we should get I and A. So you have to transform. You have to change AI as IA. And this will be the inverse. So this is by Gauss-Jordan method. And from exercise 1.1, it was the sums that you have tried, many sums over there, yes? So we have applied the formula for adjoint, we have used the formula for inverse, and many sums. We have done many sums. I hope that you will be clear with that, all things. And in also exercise 1.1, we have studied a new application, that was cryptography. So some encoded message would be given to you and you have to find out the original message. That is, the message would be given in a secret way and you are going to reveal the message. I hope it's clear to you, children. So these were the things that we have done in a unit 1. I would just like to see the formulas of adjoint. We'll just have a list of formulas that we have used in our exercise 1.1. In exercise 1.1, we use the formula for adjoint. What is the formula for adjoint? It's 1 upon mod A. Where you have a list of formulas, children? Just come to page. We have a lot of formulas there so that it will be easy for you to refer. Yeah, just come to page. We have some formulas in page 9. So just take page 9. So what is the formulas we have there? A inverse. A new formula for A inverse. That is, if you are going to use this formula, if the adjoint is given to you. What is the formula for A inverse? Plus minus 1 upon square root of determinant adjoint A into adjoint A. Determinant adjoint A into adjoint A. Okay, tell the formula for A inverse. If adjoint A is given, the formula for A inverse is plus minus 1 upon square root of adjoint A, that is square root of determinant of adjoint A into adjoint A. Okay. And also they have given you one more formula there. Was that A is equal to, what is the formula for A? A is equal to plus minus 1 upon root of adjoint A, adjoint of adjoint A, adjoint of adjoint A. Okay. This was one thing. And then what else we have? Okay, so these two were there. Just see the collection of different formulas, children, so that it will be easy for you to understand. And already we have one more formula, that is already I have used there, yes. So A inverse already used here in matrix inversion method. And one more formula. So A inverse we have written. Okay. Yeah, that's all, I hope so. Okay. So just remember all these formulas. Okay, done. So just have a collection of, study all the formulas there that we have used. Okay, done, children? Okay, so these were the things that we have seen in unit 1. So now let's follow our unit 2. So we are going to start with a new unit today, that is we are going to study a new topic, that is complex numbers. So let's take the classwork. I hope you have listed all the, you would have recollected all the formulas and everything, yes children? So we had some formulas for inverses, we had some formulas for finding adjoints. For adjoints we had a formula, that is we have to find the cofactor of it, and you also have to take the transpose of cofactor. So what was the formula for adjoint of A? Adjoint of A is find, that is transpose of the cofactor. And for finding the cofactor you have different ways to follow. So we have a method for finding 2 by 2 matrix. For finding cofactor you have different ways, that is for 2 by 2 matrix you can follow a different way, and for 3 by 3 matrix you have a different way. So you have to just refer your classwork for the different methods we have used. Okay children, so I have just recollected, or we have just recollected the different exercises and the different methods used in that exercise. Okay children, so let's start with a new topic. So I want you to take your classwork, write down today's date, write down a new topic, take a new page, give a heading, lesson number 2, complex numbers. Give lesson number 2, complex numbers. So unit 1 is very, very important unit, and it is a easy unit. The thing is the sums are lengthier. So if you are clear with the methods, you just can do it fast. So do not skip any method. All the methods are important. Okay children? So shall we start with unit 2? Okay. I hope you have taken a new page. Have you written today's date? Write down lesson number 2. So put here lesson number 2, complex numbers. Okay. So before we start with the lesson, I would like you to explain what is complex number. So till now we have dealt with natural numbers, we have dealt with whole numbers, we have dealt with rational numbers, yes, we have dealt with irrational numbers, then we have dealt with real numbers, else, yeah. Okay, and one more, we have dealt with integers. The natural number starts from 1, 2 and so on. Whole number starts from 0 and so on. It's a rational. Rational, the number is in the form of P upon Q. It's in the form of a fraction where Q is not equal to 0. Irrational numbers, the numbers which are not rational. Numbers which are not rational are called irrational numbers. Okay, and this is the real numbers. Real numbers include everything. And this is integers. Integers take the positive value, it take the 0 value, and it take the negative value. So these are the different numbers we have already studied in our previous classes. So now we are going to see a new number that is called as complex number, and the form of complex number is x plus iy. Remember the form of complex number? It's x plus iy. Here x is the real part. What is x called? The real part, and y is called the imaginary part. Remember. So a complex number is a combination of real numbers and imaginary numbers. So if you have x plus iy, the x is called the real part and y is called the imaginary part. And the number I, we call this as imaginary unit. What is I called as? Imaginary unit. So this is a introduction for complex number. So you have to learn some basic things about complex number. So how is complex number made of? A complex number is combined, or it is made of a real part and the imaginary part. And also it has a imaginary unit. Clear, children? So suppose if we have a number, if I give you a number 5 plus I7, suppose. So what is the real number over here? So the real number is 5. And what is the imaginary part here? The imaginary part is 7. Are you clear, children? Okay, so these are the things that you are going to follow up for the complex number. I hope you were clear with some numbers that we have used in our previous classes. So we have studied about natural numbers. That means it starts from 1. The next one is a whole number. It starts from 0. The next one, rational numbers. What do you mean by rational number? It's Q. That is, it can be expressed as P upon Q. The next one is R minus Q. What do you mean by R minus Q? It is an irrational number. What is irrational? The numbers which are not rational. The numbers which are not rational are called irrational numbers. Under real, mostly all the number comes under real numbers. Next one, integers. If you have a number line, I'll just draw over here. Okay. I'll just draw a number line. The integer is easy to just represent in using a number line. So you have an origin 0 over here. Then we have all the positive numbers this side, that is on the right side, and the negative numbers on the left side. So integers comprises of 0, all the positive numbers and also the negative numbers. I hope you are clear with the different numbers. So in this chapter we are going to deal with a complex number. And what is the form of complex number, children? X plus iy. And what is this x called? The x is called as the real part, and the y is called as the imaginary part. And what is this I called as? The I is called as imaginary unit. I hope you are clear with the complex numbers. Okay, children? So let's start with some points. So you have to write down the points along with me. You have, I hope you have taken a new page as we are going to start the new lesson. So take a new page, a fresh page, and we are going to start. Come on, let's start our work. Give the heading, powers of imaginary unit. Give the heading, powers of imaginary unit. You know what is imaginary unit here? Yes, good. That is small I. A small I. So we are going to find out the powers of imaginary unit. Let's start. You can just refer this in page 53. You have the powers of imaginary unit in page 53. In some cases they have given the answers directly. So let us solve the steps and find out the answer. So we are going to follow the steps and we are going to get the answer, so that it will be useful for you to apply the steps in the exercise. Clear, children? So listen to me carefully. This is a very easy lesson compared to 11th. The 12th class maths is very, very easy. So if you compare your classes, if you compare your 11th and your 12th, it's easy. Comparatively, it is easy. So you can just use it. You have already, some of you have done good. So I just want you to work out more and you're going to get good marks in your 12th standard. So just work it out. So maths is a subject where you have to practice every day. It's not a story that once you listen and you just put it in your paper. No. Every day you have to put effort. The day, if you have doing your work, if you're doing your work every day, surely there will be a good result. It's up to you. So if you have to score good marks or if you want to score good marks, it is in your hand. You have to just put a hard practice. Just go on practicing. Just do it, children. Do not waste your time. Okay. I hope you have taken the heading, powers of imaginary unit. So let me write down first. I'll start with I raised to 0. I raised to 0. Anything raised to 0 is 1. This is the law of indices that we have studied. A raised to 0 is 1. So anything raised to 0 gives you 1. So just put here as 1. What is the value for I raised to 0? I raised to 0 is equal to 1. Okay, done. Now let's go for the next one. I raised to 1. What is I raised to 1? You can just write I like this. Don't put like this I, because, okay, we can write I like this, no problem. Or just have a small bending, like small, looks like I. Because I and 1 sometimes looks same. So have a small hook like here. So I raised to 1 is equal to I. Anything raised to 1 is the same number. 2 raised to 1, 2. 3 raised to 1, 3. 1000 raised to 1, 1000. So I raised to 1 is I. Okay, done. Now let's go for the second power. I hope this is, don't just think that what ma'am is writing over here. This is the basic thing that we have to carry out throughout our lesson too. So this is the very, very important thing you have to know. You have to know these parts. So what is the first thing? I raised to 0 is equal to 1. I raised to 1 is equal to I. Okay, done. Now let's go for the second part. I square. Remember this value, children. I square is taken as minus 1. What is the value for I square? I square is equal to minus 1. Okay, see. I'll just tell you where to apply this I square. We have, suppose we have a equation x square is equal to 1. So if I take square root on both sides, what I get? Taking square root on both sides. If I take square root on both sides, square root of x. So this is square root of x square is equal to plus minus, or I just put here root of 1. So x is equal to plus minus 1. Okay. So plus minus 1. So here we get plus minus 1. Okay. So no problem here. Some cases like x square plus 1 is equal to 0 something. So x square is equal to minus 1. So x is equal to square root of minus 1. See, when I take plus 1, if I take x square is equal to 1, x is equal to plus minus 1. Good. If I have x square plus 1 is equal to 0, I'll get x square is equal to minus 1. Till here, this is the sum that we have already studied in our lower classes. Yes, children? So x square plus 1 is equal to 0 means x square is equal to minus 1. So if I take the square root, I get x is equal to root of minus 1. Now what is minus 1? Now minus 1 is I square. So I'll write x is equal to square root of I square. So what will be the answer, children? So x will be I. See? So this is what? This is an imaginary number, or you can call this as complex numbers. So we don't get an answer for root of minus 1 in real numbers. So we will get an answer for square root of minus 1 in complex number. So that's why we are studying all the powers. So what is the value for I square? I square is equal to minus 1. I want you to take down this point. Take down this point in the rough, not in the rough, on the right side. You have places over here, yes? So just write down this point. X square plus 1 is equal to 0. So x is equal to so you can just put here, I have told you, you can put here plus minus. So x is equal to plus minus I square. So x is equal to plus, I have a habit of putting plus minus I. I want you to take down the step, children, because you should know how to apply that minus 1. So how you get minus 1? You get minus 1. Minus 1 is a square. Or we get, that is when you take a square root of, how to say, yeah, square root of minus 1 is I square. So I square. So minus 1 is I square. So square root of minus 1 is, that is in place of minus 1 you have to put I square. So you get the answer as I. So square root of minus 1 is I. So it's I. So remember the statements. X square plus 1 is equal to 0. I hope you are writing along with me. So x square is equal to minus 1. So whenever you take the square root, put a positive and a negative sign. Square root of minus 1. So plus minus I. I am just replacing this minus 1 as I square. So when you remove the square root sign, that is the square and the square root sign goes off. So plus minus I is left. So this is what a complex number. So we are dealing with a complex number over here. Okay. So now let's go with the next number, I cube. Now what is I cube? I cube is I square into I. We are just splitting I cube. How are we splitting I cube? As I square into I. That is I. This is 2i and 1i. So a raised to m plus n is equal to a raised to m into a raised to n. So we have 3 here. So 3 is splitted as 2 plus 1. So I raised to 2 into I raised to 1. If you want, you can put here I raised to 1. So using the law of indices, a raised to m into a raised to n is equal to a raised to m plus n. I hope you have taken to this point. Okay. So now I know the value for I square. What is the value for I square, children? Minus 1. Yes. So put here minus 1. What is the value for I raised to 1? It's I. Yes. So minus 1 into I, minus I. So I cube is minus I. Okay. So what are the powers? The first one, I raised to 0 is 1. I raised to 1 is I square is minus 1. And how you are getting the value for I cube? I am going to split this 3. How are we splitting this 3 as? 2 and 1. So I square into I raised to 1. The dot represents into, okay, multiplication over here. So minus 1 into I gives you minus I. Okay, let's go for the next part. I raised to 4. I raised to 4. Can you tell me how are we going to split this 4? Yes. So 4 can be splitted as 2 2. I square, I square. So let's split it. You write here I square into I square. What is I square? It's minus 1. Yes, good. Minus 1 into again minus 1. So minus 1 into minus 1 gives you 1. So what is the value for I raised to 4? The value for I raised to 4 is 1. Is it clear, children? Okay. So now let's move to the next power. So we have just dealing with the positive powers. So similarly you can go on finding for as many values you want. You can find out I raised to 5. You can find I raised to 6. You just go on finding. Okay. Now let's take some negative powers. I am going to take I raised to minus 1. I raised to minus 1. It's very, very important thing. just put your pens down and listen to me this sum. Listen to this sum and then you can take down the classwork. I raised to minus 1 is taken as 1 upon I. And remember, never keep I on the denominator part. So what is the condition? Never keep the answer, that is, never keep the denominator as I in the denominator. In the denominator part, we should not have I. Okay, so we have 1 upon I. So I have to remove this I. So what I'm going to do? I am going to multiply by I on the numerator and the denominator, because whatever change is done in the denominator, the same changes have to be done on the numerator part also. So into I. Okay, so this is I upon I square. I into I square. I know the value for I square. Yeah, what is the value for I square? Minus 1. Yes, so this is I upon minus 1. So the answer is minus I. The minus comes over here. So I upon 1 minus I. I hope you are clear with I raised to minus 1. So when, how is it changing? This is A raised to minus M. So what is the law used here? A raised to minus M is 1 upon A raised to M. So 1 upon A raised to M. So how are you going to write I raised to minus 1? 1 upon I. Why I am multiplying here by I? Because we don't want I in the denominator part. So whatever change we do in the denominator, the same change has to be done in the numerator part also. So 1 upon I into I, and here again I have to multiply by I. So 1 into I gives you I into I gives you I square. I know the value for I square. What is the value for I square? Yeah, it's minus 1. So I upon minus 1 is equal to minus I. Is it clear, children? Okay. Now let's go for the next part. I raised to minus 2. What is I raised to minus 2? 1 upon I square. Here, is there any need of multiplying by I? Because I know the value for I square. Yes, children? I know the value for I square. So what you do? Just substitute the value. 1 upon minus 1. That's minus 1. See, that's why. So when we write, there should be no confusion between 1 and I. So just put a small tail for I. So I raised to minus 2 is equal to minus 1. Okay, now let's go for I raised to minus 3. I hope you are taking down the points. Take down the points, children. I raised to minus 3. This all we have to remember. If you at least know the different ways of writing, if you know how to derive the answer, it is easy. The only main thing is you have to remember these 3 values. If you know these 3 values, that's enough. What is the value for I raised to 0? 1. What is the value for I raised to 1? I. What is the value for I square? Minus 1. So if you know these 3 values, it's enough. We can just go on finding as many values for the powers of I. Are you getting my point? So remember the first 3 values thoroughly. What is the value for I raised to 0, children? Yes, it is 1. What law of indices are we using there? A raised to 0. What is A raised to 0? It's 1. Any number to the power 0 is 1. What about the second one? What is I raised to 1? It's I. Whatever power is with it. Whatever number is with the power 1, you get the same number. So I raised to 1 is I. And what is the value for I square? It's minus 1. I hope you are clear with the different powers. Okay, children. Now let's proceed for I raised to minus 3. What is I raised to minus 3? 1 upon I cube. Okay, what is 1 upon I cube? What is the value for I cube? I cube is minus I. Yes, but I don't want I in the denominator part. So what I have to do? 1 upon, I'll just multiply by I and I, okay? So 1 upon I cube into I. So what I'll get? I upon I raised to 4. What is I raised to 4, children? I raised to 4 is 1. See, so easy, because I don't want I in the numerator part, that is in the denominator part. So I cube, I'm just multiplying by I. If I write the value for I cube, I get again I. So don't write I there. You just multiply by I. So I cube into I. If you are doing any change in the denominator part, the same should be done in the numerator also. So I upon I raised to 4. What is the value for I raised to 4? Yeah, it's 1. Okay, so the answer is I. What is the value for I raised to minus 3? It's I. Yes, done. So we have arrived. In the textbook, they have given the answers directly. So we should know how to derive the values. Are you clear, children? Okay, let's complete the next one. I raised to minus 4. What is I raised to minus 4? It's simple. I want you to try out the last part. Come on, do the sum by yourself. So I raised to minus 4 will be written as, yes, good, do it. 1 upon I raised to 4. We know the value for I raised to 4. Yes, children? What is the value for I raised to 4? I raised to 4 is 1. So the answer is 1 upon 1, which is taken as 1. So you get the answer as 1. 1 upon 1 as 1. So we have found the powers of I. That is, we have found some 4 positive powers, and also we have found 4 negative powers. So this is I hope you are clear with the basic part. So just do it. So your homework is to copy down the same powers, okay? Powers of imaginary unit. So this you are going to do as the homework. Have you completed, children? Okay. Okay, now let's start with exercise 2.1. Write down exercise 2.1. In 2.1, you will be completing second sum as homework, and fifth sum as homework. Question number 2 and question number 5. The remaining sums I'll be doing as classwork. Just write down one more. So first of all, what is the first part? You're going to write down all the powers. Listen to the homework part. It's very, very important thing that you have to follow. The first thing is you're going to write all the powers like as your classwork. So you're going to take down the classwork as it is for powers of imaginary unit. And the second thing is from exercise 2.1, you're going to do the second and the fifth sum. So you can refer, some solved examples are given to you. You can refer the solved examples. You just take idea from there and you have to complete the sums. So just a very few sums for homework. So do it. And you have to be ready with your unit 1, children. You may be, or you may have a test. You may have a test. So you may have a surprise test. So you just get ready. So if we have a test, your portion will be full unit 1. So just prepare and keep it ready. You have to go through all the solved examples, multiple choice questions, formulas, definitions, everything. So whenever you get time, you have time. Yes, you have to manage your time wisely and you are going to complete your unit 1. Okay, so I hope you have taken down the homeworks. Let's proceed with exercise 2.1. 2.1, I'm going to do the first question. Simplify the following. The first one is I raised to 1900, that is 1947 plus I raised to 1950. This is a very interesting sum. This is only I told you that you have to remember the powers. So if you are thorough with the powers, the sum will go very smoothly. Okay, so I raised to 1947 plus I raised to 1950. So we have already seen that I raised to 4 gives you 1. Yes, children? I raised to 4 is 1. So what are we going to do? We are just going to write this as a product of 4. That is, we are going to divide 1947 by 4 and also 1950 by 4. So let's divide it. and let's try to write the answer. I'll tell you how to write the answer. So first divide here by 4,947 and also divide 1,950. Divide them. Okay, so 4 4s are 16, 3 4 8s are 32, 2 4 6 are 24. Divide this. 4 4s are 16, 4 8s are 32, 4 7s are 28. So I have just divided. You have to show the working part, children, because we are just going to use that. So I am just going to write the division rule over here. I'm just going to write like this: 4 into and plus. Remember this rule, dividend is equal to, we write as quotient. So just you have to multiply these two. Quotient and remainder you have to add. So 4 into 486 plus 3. So you get here I raised to, so 1947 will be written as 4 into 486 plus 3 plus I. How you will write this? 4 into 487 plus 2. I hope you are clear. We are writing the rules over here. Dividend is equal to divisor. Yeah, the rule was this: dividend is equal to divisor into quotient plus remainder. So divisor, quotient plus remainder. So remainder. So you have to follow this rule. So 4 into 486 plus 3, 4 into 487 plus 2. Okay, so we have just written the rule. Now a small manipulation. We have to just arrange it. So let's do the arrangements. Please children, give proper space and write, okay? So don't just mingle everything together. Here we have some space. You have to leave a space over here. So what I'm going to do is, this is in the form of a raised to m plus n. So a raised to m plus n is a raised to m into a raised to n. So we are going to split this as, I'll write I raised to 4 into 486 into I cube plus I raised to 4 into 487 into I square. I hope you are clear. A raised to m plus n. So a raised to m into a raised to n. This is m, this is n. M, n. So I raised to 4 into 487 I square. Now let's see how to write this. I'll write I raised to 4, 486. What is the value for I cube, children? Just find out the answer for I cube. You have already the tables with you. I cube is minus I. I'll put here minus I plus I raised to 4, 487 into minus 1. I know the value for I square. What is I square? It's minus 1. Okay, let's continue our sum. I raised to 4. What is the value for I raised to 4? It's 1. Remember the value. So 1 raised to 486 minus I plus 1. Again here I raised to 4. That's why I told you that you have to write down whatever numbers are there, divide by 4. So that we will get the answer as 1. So 1 raised to 487 minus 1. Anything number, any number raised to 1, 1. So here what is left? Minus I, here minus 1. 1 raised to anything, 1 raised to any number is going to give you 1. 1 raised to 1000, 1 raised to lakh is going to be 1. So now what is the form of complex number? The form is the real part and the imaginary part. So first the real part should come and next the imaginary part is there. So write the number. So number is minus 1. So you have to write this as minus 1 minus I. So this is a complex number and minus 1 is the real part and minus I is the imaginary part. That is minus I is the unit and 1. You have a coefficient of I as 1. Yes children? So that 1 is the imaginary part. I hope you are clear with the sum. Okay, so let's have a small, I'll just revise this sum once again so that you can try out the second and the fifth for your homework. So what is the first term? What is the first step you're going to do? The question was I raised to 1000. Listen to whenever I explain to you, just put your pens down and you have to listen carefully. So I raised to 1947 plus I raised to 1940. So what are we going to do? We are going to divide the numbers by 4. Okay, then after dividing the numbers by 4, you have to follow the rule. Dividend is equal to divisor into quotient plus remainder. So 4 into 486 plus 3. Then again here the same you follow for 1950. So 4 into 487 plus 2. Okay, then you are going to apply a raised to m plus n in rule. So what is a raised to m plus n rule? You get a raised to m into a raised to n. So what is m here? 4 into 486. And what is n here? 3. So just split it. I raised to 4 into 486. I raised to 3. Same way here. Now I raised to 4. You just make a group over here. So we have this rule also. A raised to m into n. So a raised to m, a raised to n. So this everything. Mostly we are bringing all the rules of indices over here. All the laws over here. So I raised to 4, 486 into, I know the value for I cube, that is minus I. I raised to 4, 487 minus 1. So just complete your work. You get 1 raised to 486 minus I plus 1, 487 minus 1. I get minus I minus 1. So what is the form of complex number? X plus IY. So just write as minus 1 into minus I. So with this, we stop our class. We'll be just continuing with the remaining sums in the next class, okay? So in 2.1, we have 1, 2, 3 more sums. Yes, children, you're going to complete 2 sums, that is 2 and 5. And the remaining sums will be done in the next class. I hope you have understood the different powers of imaginary units. So you study the powers of imaginary unit properly.